Hello out there, and in front of you today is a new Spyderco Sprint Run, and this is the Native 5 in CPM M4 and Jade Natural Green G10 handle scales. And this is a Blade HQ exclusive, and it's one that just happened to me real conveniently because I've been looking to get a G10 Native for quite a while. I've never had one before. I've had a number of the FRN lightweight versions before, but I recently sold my little Native in the interest of getting a G10 one, and I put that money aside to go towards a new G10 version, and it just so happened that that sort of coincided with the release of this new knife. And so I went for it. And today I'm just going to give a quick look at this version of it and some of the upgrades and differences between this and the standard Native lightweight, and also the old G10 versions as well that have been recently changed and updated. And then also I want to talk just a little bit today about when upgrading to the more premium materials versus the base model, when it makes sense and when it doesn't. Because I think in this case, with this particular version, it makes a ton of sense to pick this one up. So first though, let's just take a look at the knife itself. Let's talk a little bit about the Jade handle scales and just the look of the knife in general. Because those of you who know me and have seen some of my previous videos where I talk about the Jade G10, I've sort of been up and down about it. You know, I like the look of the scales. I think it's a good looking scale for sure, but I've never really loved the satin finish of a blade just against that Jade. I think that it's a little bit too light, and the contrast of, say, the DLC coated, blade here on this Paramilitary 2, I just think looks a whole lot better. The hardware, the blade itself, all that stuff is just it's a little bit more, I don't know, just more my style. But for some reason, when I opened up this knife, I just really liked it. I thought it looked extremely classy. And I had actually purchased a new bottle of purple RIT dye because I had the idea when this knife was on its way to me that maybe I would just get the knife, immediately take it apart and dye the scales. But man, now I think I'm just going to keep it as is. I'm going to keep this knife the way that it is because I just really, really like the look of it. And who knows, maybe down the road I will end up doing some kind of dye job with the scales or getting something different. But for now, I think I'm going to keep it the way that it is. Now, again, like I was saying, this is my first G10 experience with the Native. It's always been one of my favorite models. I've always really liked it. And here is the FRN version, the lightweight version. But I do have to tell you guys, the Native 5 is in a little bit of a flux situation right now. It's changing, it's upgrading or updating depending on how you look at it. And there are some differences between this and some of the other G10 versions apart from the actual steel and the color of the scales. Because it used to be that your G10 Native would weigh in right at around 3.7 ounces, I believe. And that was a pretty significant difference compared to the lightweight version, which is 2.5. But now, take a look at this. This knife weighs in at 3.03 ounces. So the lightweight Native is really just a little bit lighter than what is the G10 version now. And the reason for that is that the Native is changing. The steel on the Native 5 G10 is going back to S30V like it was on the Native 4. But in addition to that, they have started removing the steel liners and just riding with G10 only on the inside. And that is the reason for the weight cut on this particular version, and also the reason for the weight cut that you'll see on just about every version of the G10 Native, with the exception of the S110V. For some reason, and I remember reading, for some reason, something with the color of that scale or that manner of that manner of G10, they need to keep the steel liners in that version. So that one will stay the same, but everything else is getting a drastic weight reduction. So just an interesting model to be coming out at this point, while the rest of the model itself is in a state of flux. Now, one other thing I want to talk about though is the price point and upgrades. And people ask me a lot. It's one of the most common questions that I get, anytime that I show, an upgraded model to a knife. Anytime I show one of those off or pick one up, people always ask me, is it worth it? Is it necessary? And the answer almost all the time is no. No, it's not necessary. Getting an upgraded steel or an upgraded handle material or color or something for EDC purposes really doesn't do all that much. Not all that often, at least. For me, if we're looking at the Para 3, like I really wanted the carbon fiber, but is it functionally a better tool because of the carbon fiber versus the G10? No, I really don't think so. I just wanted it. And that's what I see 90% of the time. If we're talking about the Paramilitary 2 or the Para 3, you're talking about a difference between, $40, $50, sometimes more. A regular G10 S30V Paramilitary 2 you can get for around $100 to $110, on Amazon or wherever you're looking. You can usually find it at that price point. This was $175. So from a practical standpoint, there's no reason to do the upgrade. But sometimes it just plays out that the price points line up a little bit better, and it seems to make a lot of sense. And the Native here is a perfect example of that. Because the regular G10 S35VN, while they're still in stock, version of the Native goes for $146. That's expensive. And I don't know if the price points are going to change as the materials change and as those liners start to go away and we start to see the new S30V linerless version available. I don't know if that price will drop. I honestly don't really think it will. But $146 for that knife, it's expensive, but this one is $155. So for an extra $10, you get CPM M4, and if you're into the J to G10 scales, that's a no-brainer. If you think about it versus the S110V version, if you don't care about those liners, that version's $165, $155. So sometimes, just depending on the way that things are marked up and the price point that they set for a sprint, sometimes that upgrade makes a ton of sense. And in this case, why would I spend $146 on the regular G10 S35VN version, which is still available as they again transition to S30V? Why would I spend that when I could spend an extra $10 and get this? So that's really the mindset, and I think that it's to each his own when it comes to preference and what you're looking for. But make sure when you're going to go spend a good amount of money on a knife and on an upgrade or just on a base model, do your research and see about the other things in its the other price points for the competitive options, because sometimes it just makes too much sense to pass up, and that was definitely, like I said, the case with this Native 5. So one more time, here's a look at the G10 version versus the FRN. Here is a look at the inside one more time, where you can see that there are no liners. Lockup on this knife has just been perfect. Really nicely done. Very happy with this purchase. And yeah, any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, let me know down below. Two quick notes. One thing I wanted to talk about is if you're watching this video today and I'm posting it on May the 4th, then my Instagram giveaway is ending today. So if you're not involved already, head on over to my page and check that out. Also, I want to hear your opinion. What do you like when it comes to the Native? Do you like this model? Do you not like it at all? Do you prefer the FRN? Are you someone who is like me and just for a long time you've had the FRN and never really thought about getting the G10? What are your thoughts just in general on this model and where it's going? All right, guys. But thanks for watching. Take care, and I will talk with you soon. Have a good one, and happy May the 4th.